So you had a friend named Alex Sanchez,
Right.
and he was an MS-13 guy himself.
Correct.
And he approached you because he wanted to start a gang intervention group.
Right.
How old were you at the time?
I think I must have been like 21, early 20 or 21, early 20s.
Okay, so you've been banging for like 7.
Yeah, about 7, 8 years.
You've been banging for like 7 or 8 years.
Right.
What was it about Alex that convinced you to go through this whole system?
Well, I remember seeing Alex. Alex was one of the persons that I used to always look out through the window, and that I felt that he had that respect, power, and pride as well when I was a kid before I even joined. I remember being a kid and seeing Alex in these carnivals, and he was everybody was just around him. Everybody wanted to be like him when he was in the gang, if you will. And then when I got, when he approached me, he had this level of respect within the gang as well. So right there, it kind of clicked like, man, is this guy is saying not to do it, that it's not worth it. And I'm seeing how comfortably he's doing this and nobody's messing with him because he's doing this stuff to go ahead and leave the lifestyle. Maybe I'll go ahead and give it a chance. But the first initial was, I was already used to this stuff, to being from the gang. So the first initial was I was already in this addiction lifestyle where my whole world consisted of just going over in my head, MS, 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 and I'm going to go ahead and try to fight or be the enemy of anybody else. But, I eventually went to the group.
So joining this group, which was, now this is Homies Unidos?
Right.
The early incarnation of it.
Right.
Does that mean that you had to leave MS-13?
I think during that time, it wasn't necessarily about that. It was more of stopping violence and drugs and trying to be a person that doesn't commit those crimes as well. So if you tell somebody initially, go ahead and leave MS-13, you have to go ahead and show them what is the opportunity ahead. You have to bring them within the circle, if you will, for him to go ahead and leave. So it was kind of him putting people and talking about Homies Unidos and then just going. Then if you wanted to go ahead and leave the gang afterwards, then you definitely had that choice.
I mean, in MS-13, are you allowed to leave? Is it blood in, blood out, like the Mexican mafia? Or can you just say, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, and everyone just wishes you well?
I think when you talk about MS-13, you talk about the demographics of El Salvador, then the East Coast, then the demographics in California. But when you get onto him, I mean, I definitely didn't put in a 2-week notice or anything like that. I didn't tell people, hey, I kind of faded away somewhat like if it was a bad relationship, when you're breaking up with a girl or whatever, or vice versa, and they're hitting you up and you start answering those calls. If they're gonna be there, or I'm gonna go ahead and be over here, and you would think it was MS-13. It's a lot more difficult to go ahead and do that. But as soon as we started going to the neighborhood, I think as we started hearing, expressing ourselves with obviously drugs and violence and seeing the opportunity that Homies Unidos had, I think we started egging each other on instead of saying, hey, let's go over here, beat this person up or beat this person up. Probably let's not go ahead and do that. But you could definitely fade away from the gang, and not just MS-13. I mean, I think there was a study done, I think it was 70,000, or it might have been 700,000, that I saw a study from the University of Boulder that's the amount of people that are leaving gangs each year.
Mm. Okay, so now you're part of Homies Unidos.
Right.
And you feel like you're no longer gang banging, but the police see it otherwise.
Right.
And you're sort of in the middle of the whole Rampart police district,
right,
which ultimately ended up being the most corrupt police force in America.
Right.
And you start getting pulled over on your way to meetings.
Mm-hmm.
You start getting beat up by the police.
Correct. It was the same officers that was stopping us and frisking us when we were from MS, and believe me, we definitely weren't no angels. But it's for some reason they probably believed that we couldn't change, or we didn't have that opportunity, or doing their corrupt ways, they would just continue to use the strategy and the strategy. There was no strategy of saying, okay, now this guy's not from MS, these people are not from MS. How do you deal with them? We were still being dealt as that. And then they took a very disliking to Homies Unidos, because now we had the backing of Senator Tom Hayden. And we used to, tell him the stuff that was going on the streets, and we started organizing with him against police brutality. So there was a time in the neighborhood where the police stopped you. They asked you, are you from MS-13 or are you from Homies Unidos? And people will raise their hands. Okay, I'm from Homies Unidos. Okay, you're going to jail. Who's from MS-13? Other people started raising their hands. Okay, you guys can go ahead and leave.
Well, you guys actually end up suing
Right.
the police department,
Correct.
and they settled for six figures. Mm-hmm. Can you say how much?
Well, it was six figures that consisted of between a certain amount of people. But what I ended up getting, it was a few thousand.
Okay.
Right. It wasn't more than 5,000 or nothing.
Okay, so you didn't really make nothing of
Yeah.
it.